right. Welcome back to the Doomer Bloomer All Truths Only podcast with Will Nemo. We are talking to people who have been through the ringer of life, hit rock bottom, and come back again to the other side of their hero's journey, changed, reformed, and ready to share their lessons with the world. Today I have Rhonda Parker Taylor, or just Rhonda for short. And we're going to talk about her story, her book, her hero's journey, and how to change your doomer mindset to one of a bloomer. How are you doing today, Rhonda?
Great, great. I'm so glad to be here today on this sunny Saturday morning. And I love the topic. So many times we think that life just hits us, or maybe we think that why has life hit us? Or maybe we even made the wrong decisions because we've all done all of those. But I have found it's not what knocks us down, it's what we do in our path to healing, recovery, and journey that makes the difference, because that's what defines us. It's not what's knocked us down, but how we get up that makes a difference.
Have you heard of that Buddhist adage? Fall down 8 times, get up. Fall down 7 times, get up eight.
Yes, and the great thing about that is it comes from Proverbs. And when you have that mentality, it tells you how to live your life. So it's not just Buddhist, it's not just Christian, it's not just any kind of religion, it's an actual mindset. And when we get that mindset, boy, we can just take off and soar. I kind of look at it like this. We're all made of glass. And when life hits, we shatter. And it goes down to the bottom of the ocean, and the ocean's roughness and the waves makes us smooth again and spits us back out on the beach like sea glass. And sea glass is known as a gem. So every time life hits us, whether it's one time, 7 times, maybe we're on the 20th time, as that ocean and the sea works, it takes its ability to make us smooth again and puts us back out into the world so we can thrive. We are all sea glass.
Do you live near the ocean? I wasn't sure.
No, I don't. I live in Indiana.
I was just wondering. That's one of my dream lines that I've been thinking about lately is having a place in Costa Rica and place just becoming nomadic in general. So um, it's kind of interesting you should say that. But I was just going to ask, where are you? Would you say? I mean, on your hero's journey in general, are you starting multiple cycles? Are you coming back from a previous one? Um, just share a little bit of your story and what led you to where you are today.
Well, I would say my life is like all of us. I would like to say I'm unique in my journey, but really it's only the uniqueness is really what happens or in our lives that's taken us to that storm in our life. I've had many. I've had loss of parents, both of them at this point in my life. So death and illness has been a part of my life. I lost an adopted son to violence. He was working, and a person came in and shot him, and several of the people working there with a gun. I've, had illness and sickness of my own, so we all have them. And I would say for me, I found at first I didn't know how to navigate storms and know how to, do that journey and of healing and accepting and identifying the problems and why I feel a certain way. But now at the season of my life now, because I've gone through several, I realize I allow myself to mourn whatever I've lost, It could be naiveness, it could be financial, it could be, life itself. And then pick myself up, find what works for me in that moment of self-care and moving on. So I would say that I'm at a maturity level. If we were going to do a life cycle of healing and working through our journey, I would say now I know what the journey should look like. So when life does hit it, I have the resilience to pull myself back out. And I look at resilience in four different categories. You have your spiritual, you have your emotional resilience, you have your physical resilience, and you have your spiritual resilience. Because anytime we hit that downward cycle, something hits us, all of our being is affected, and we heal at different levels at different moments. So sometimes it may hit us more in the physical realm, sometimes it hits you in the spiritual realm more, other times it might hit you in the emotional, and then other times it might hit us in the psychological aspect of our lives. So, you have to kind of assess what area of resilience do I have to draw upon to be a better navigator of the storm. And so I found like journaling and visualization, meditation, all of those are really excellent ways of preparing myself for the preparation of taking the next step in the journey.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I think this is what a Taoist would consider talking or would consider anticipation or the ability to anticipate the waves or the storms of your life. Um, because you get to, at least in the Taoist practice, you get to a point where rather than reacting to things, you're proactively anticipating when the next storm or the next wave is going to roll over you, whether it's a good or bad experience, depending on what's going on in your life. And I'm sorry that that happened to your son. That's a very tragic story. Um, but it sounds like just like the sea glass, it kind of forged you or changed like you had to have that experience of being broken down or shattered in order to become the present version, I guess, of who you are. And a loss in any capacity of human life, in my opinion, is very unfortunate. We live in a very in French it's called chicane. We live in a very friction, unfortunately, based world where there's a lot of competing heads and competing interests. And um, now that you're on the other side of that and you've started writing and I guess coaching and other things, um, how do you roll all of those experiences into what you do now? And how do you show up now compared to when it first happened to you?
Oh my goodness. When things first happened to me, I was barely in the naming the pain. I literally found a crack in the wall that, where there when that you couldn't even see regularly with regular eyes, but it was like it was magnified where the house had settled when the officer showed up at the door to say that he had been shot. And I followed it to the top, to the ceiling, and in my mind, I said, "It'll be okay." That's all I could say to myself. And then I turned childlike. And I'm sure anybody out there that's gone through anything can understand this. And in that childness, I remembered a song in off of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer and Frosty the Snowman. And in that, it said, "Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'd be walking out the door." And when I realized that I had something that I needed to do, right? I had to get back out there, and I had to um go out and tell people, what had happened and what we were going to do to improve things, I realized that life's journey was filled with trials and triumphs. And I was just in one aspect of that where I had to, you know, learn to adapt and bounce back. And, and so from that, I, I had to set the time frame and start going through it, but I was a mess. Let me tell you, I went from spiritual practice to spiritual practice, and different locations, stopping, having people pray. I was on a mat one moment, I'd be, in a church, getting prayer another, and hands laid on me because I was a mess. I cried. We all go through these things. And then one day I realized that it wasn't just about that, that I had to completely heal myself. I had to go back and realize that I even had to fire what I call fire my own God.
What does that mean exactly?
Well, when I did that, I had to redefine what God was. See, I had this patriarchal thought of what God was as a judgment, and I would be harsh on myself. I didn't practice self-love sometimes as like I should, because I thought, what's wrong with you that you aren't performing like you normally would? What's wrong with you that you just don't, you want to stay in bed? And so I someone told me one time, well, if you're not getting the nurturing from your higher power, then fire him. Hire a new one. That's what you would do in business. And it took me a long time, and I had to think, well, how do you fire a god? And then finally I was like, okay, fire hire. That's what they said to do. And I found a tree, and the tree was barren, had no lights whatsoever. And in doing that, no leaves, it was just, it was dead. I said, that is my God, because that's how I feel. And you know what? After praying and walking that whole summer, that tree became life again. It started getting leaves. It transformed that summer of me walking and doing different things. I was in the middle of my doctoral program, and I was at the University of Phoenix for my dissertation and defense. And I'd go and I'd start walking in the heat then too, and sweating and sweating and sweating. And by the time I came out of that, guess what? I was healing. I wasn't perfect. I still mourn. I still miss. I still go through things. But at the same time, I realized that I was part of the storm. In every storm, there's something that energizes the winds and the lightning and everything else. So I found that I had to take control of the storm because I was the energy. I was zamping it up rather than calming it. So I had to learn the power of calm. And the power of calm is amazing practice for yourself, where you literally de-escalate your own emotions, your own spirituality, your own, mental well-being, your own physical well-being, and take charge. And when you can do that, you are the energy of the storm. It either escalates or de-escalates.
Okay. And would you say that your storm is metaphorical now or literal, or was the tree metaphorical? Um, and and you're right, healing is a journey. I don't think healing ever truly is a completed thing. I think we go through the cycles of healing in order to feel less trauma, but I don't think at a fundamental level, all trauma can be completely purged. I think there's still always
You're exactly right.
an
I
element
agree.
an element of trauma. And I'm not sure if I asked you this. What was your PhD dissertation about, or was it even related to something else?
Business, but
Hmm.
emotional intelligence, learning how to navigate our emotions, to me is one of the most important aspects of understanding not only how to be a good leader, but also how to be a good human. If we can understand our own emotions, our own biases, our own interpretation of life, and we can also put ourselves in somebody else's shoes, we become good leaders. So it's in leadership, but at the same time, I think it also helps all of us heal at some point or another in our lives. And you're right, they're both metaphoric, and they're both of those examples, they were metaphoric, but they were also concrete. Because when you think of how you navigate your world, how you visualize things is pretty a lot of times how you approach life. So yes, I was looking at a tree that was dying, and in that tree that was dying, I was um figuring out my own pathway, you know. I was looking at it like I was a barren person, so I was visualizing what my life felt like at the moment. And then I turned around and I had to say, okay, wait a minute. But it's still life, and I had to realize, what steps do I have to take to get me to be that full tree again? And as I did it, I think metaphorically, the tree did it too, but maybe, it was my image of the tree at the time that I didn't even see that it had the ability to regrow like I did. So it was a little bit of all of it. I used a lot of writing and of poems and different kinds of spiritual growth mechanisms to help me. I pictured things like the river rages, the current strong. You wonder if you'll last for long. Think about that. That's a poem that I wrote. Because you wonder when you're in the storm itself, or when you're in that area that you have to find your own strength. Can you do it? Can you outlast those currents? But strength lies deep and hidden well to swim the waves that doubts dispel. So when we start addressing it, we find out that resilience, that strength captivates us and allows us. Then we start each stroke we take, you stronger grow through rapids fierce, your spirit flows. A voice within will softly sing, you are the storm, you are the spring. Imagine if we all could think about the fact that even when we're in the downest moments, spring's around the corner and we're part of that spring, just like that tree. When that tree started growing, I realized that I could grow again too. Through the trials vast, your roots will bind a fruitless built in heart and mind. The tempests blow to will and grit, for courage thrives where fears once sit. We fear what knocks us down, but when we stand up, we no longer will have that fear. So face the flood, let courage lead. For every challenge plants a seed to stay. A garden blooms with tears that fell. Proof you can weather every swell. A little poem for myself, but it kind of answers your own thoughts of, is it metaphoric? Yes. But is it our life? Yes. For every tear that we shed in those moments, we're literally providing the water for the roots that will allow us to have the strength to survive it. So we have to find the will to survive it.
All right. And this writing practice, is this something that you started like after the challenges that you encountered, and then this progressed, I'm guessing, into what ultimately has become your book, Crossroads?
I would say I've always loved books.
Hmm.
I've always liked, I would say, doodling,
Hmm.
and because I never knew there was a writer in me. And then one day my sister said, "When are you going to do something with all this writing that you've done?" And she's the one that had to call me out and say, "You realize you have stuff here that people can love, hate, um, wish there was more, that all kinds of feelings that can come out of it." And so, yeah, it developed into something. And I'm like, but I've got this client that I'm working with, or this client that I'm working with, making every excuse for not showing or the world or letting the world experience what growth can be like, from the pain to the hero's journey that you so eloquently show in your podcast. Because when we talk about it and we share those, everybody out there that's listening to your podcast gets an opportunity for one little drop. It may even make their eyes swell as they think about maybe their own pain. But then guess what? That water sheds, and they hear the motivational part of it, and then they can heal also. So it's like one of those things that we're sharing, not only for the intellectual growth of how do you do it, but we're doing it so we can practice self-care. What does self-care even look like when you're in pain, or you're in the healing process of your journey?
All right. And I guess coming full circle on all of this, from being shattered glass and then coming back, where would you say you are now on your journey compared to when it happened, when it
I
all
would
happened?
say, I would say in my life, I know that life will hit again,
Hmm.
and I'm prepared for it. I practice every day in some way to try to provide my self self-care for resilience, so that when it does, I'm ready and I'm strong. I do that from washing my vegetables so I can cut them up, and fruits, to and meditating on those and visualizing what that's going to do physically to my body's fitness, to my mental, visualization and meditation and breathing to provide my mental strength. So I would say right now I'm enjoying the peace and the calm, knowing that one day it will hit again.
Yeah. Uh-oh. What did we do here? Okay. Yeah, I was just gonna say, just just jumped a weird message at me. Anyways, um, pardon me. I'm with you there. I don't truly believe that the hero's journey ever really ends. We're always going to be encountering challenges, and new challenges are going to arise. We encountered a challenge this morning. just just trying to get technology to work for us. Um, that aside, though, uh, I've enjoyed our conversations. We've been speaking a little bit behind the scenes. We've had some interesting conversations. Uh, Honestly, I mean, for the amount of time that we talked, you are an extremely multifaceted person, in my opinion.
Well, thank
You
you.
you're very articulate. Um, you have, I think, so many gifts, I think, to give the world. Um, and I'm going to give you a chance, honestly, if you want to talk about your book,
Okay.
um, where to find you, and then yeah, we'll go from there.
Okay. Well, my name is Rhonda Parker Taylor. It's on the screen for you. And my website's rhondaparkertaylor.com. So that makes it very easy for anybody. I love to hear from people. Send me an email. There's a link on there. All my social media is on there. My book's on there. My next one coming out is Resilience Crossroads right now is a suspense novel. So I have two kinds of writing that I do. Well, actually, three. The first one is suspense
Mhm.
fiction. The first book, Crossroads, is a novel based out of Indianapolis. All the sites are real, so if you've never visited Indianapolis, you'll get to do the tour while you're enjoying characters that are all out of life balance. So the whole theme of the first one is it's a crime thriller, and it's like a whodunit, Agatha Christie clue based thriller where you're trying to figure out why things are happening in this murder trial. Who's doing it? Why are they doing it? Meanwhile, all your characters are have a loyalty to all the wrong things, much like we do in our own lives. One's a workaholic, so, if you're a workaholic and all of a sudden you get called to jury duty, you don't want to be there because you have to be at work. And you've got the law and order guy that's all out of balance and all worried about the law. And then you have Billy Knuckles, who's dedicated to his friends, and all he can think about is making sure his friend's okay. But meanwhile, he's now a co-defendant for a murder. So now he has to decide, am I going to turn on my friend? Am I going to take the charge? What's going to happen to me in this big process? All because we get dedicated to the wrong person. Meryl Hemingway, the great Academy Award winning actress and the great granddaughter of Ernest Hemingway, the old man of the sea, endorsed it, released a video out there. It's called Meryl Hemingway Praises Rhonda Parker Taylor. And the reason she loved it is I use DSM-5's analysis of the characters throughout the whole thing so that we see that we all have something that's a little different in us that can cause us, anxiety or depression or emphysema, some kind of biosocial problem in us that causes us problems also in our relationships. And she liked it because even she, with a charmed life that she had to experience a crossroads where she had to decide substances, friends, her health. And as she said, even chocolate has an expiration date. And think about that as we're going through life and life hits us, we make a bad decision, whatever the moment is, chocolate has an expiration date. That means at some point, enough is enough.
Well, thank you. I mean, I think you're right. I mean, I think Crossroads is a brilliant name. Um, and the fact that you use the DSM analysis, and I think there's a workbook that goes with it too, doesn't it? Isn't there?
There's a life balance workbook that uses all the characters as case studies. And then you can go in and do your own, like, if everything was perfect, the miracle question, anybody that's gone through counseling, they always ask if you woke up tomorrow and everything was perfect, what does that look like? Well, we help you design it in that workbook. It's like, okay, I really don't need 19 bedrooms and nine dining rooms. Instead, what I really want is a place that's peaceful, quiet, or maybe I want a apartment in the city or whatever it is that you really desire in your heart and that's good for you. And it helps you to design a plan for it.
Perfect. I mean, and that's honestly, in my opinion, well, that's what the Doomer Bloomer program is about as well. My sovereignty blueprint, among others, um, helping you get from a doomer mind space to a bloomer mindset. Um, when we're often in our darkest places, it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
Mhm.
Um, and, just be aware that everyone here is a spiritual being having a human experience.
Right.
So it's okay to struggle. I mean, struggle, I think, is part of the journey. And asking for help is probably the biggest learning lesson of the last 5 years for myself personally on my own crossroads,
Mhm.
my own hero's journey. I think, making the decision, like you said, to choose health versus substances and people, whatever your struggle may be, right? Just be aware that there are other people, um, and other humans having experiences and have experience that can help you on that journey. Is there anything else you'd like to say to my audience here before I sign off there, Rhonda?
I would love to say thank you, Will, for having me on your show today. All of you out there that really want to learn and have a resource to just build and repair and strengthen your own hero's journey, make sure you share and like and subscribe to this podcast because it's a good tool. It's something that you can listen to in the car. It's something that you can go back to and realize that making every day great should be one of the priorities in your life. Because if it's meant to be, it's up to you.
100% agree there. Well, thank you, Rhonda. I will plug all of your socials, your book, Crossroads. Um, I'm going to do a little bit of selfless promotion here. This has been the Doomer Bloomer podcast, all truths only with Will Nemo. You can find me at all of the different socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I don't really have too much uh, influence on TikTok, but I also have a LinkedIn. You can reach out to me. You can get a coaching call free of charge. We can workshop anything or everything that you're going through in the moment. And once again, remember that there are other people out there, um, that can help you on your own individual hero's journey and get to the other side and find some peace and calm in immerse the storms of your life. Um, Thank you and namaste. Cheers.
Thank you.